I just want to start with two poems because I know there's something going on out there that we all want to get to. So I'm going to do a couple poems now, and then between courses, when we're recovering from the wonders of one, I'll do a few poems to clear your palate, and then another bounty will be brought to you. And so this first poem I wrote for Peter and Noel at the farm where Barb was house sitting, because I was farm sitting years ago. So this is called At the Farm Near Shampooey. Once they asked me to watch over things while they were away. Just a few days of summer, the sheep loose in their domain of tattered grass, and young trees, chickens scratching and worrying, their pen white with droppings, feathers, and corn. See to the garden now and then and choose from the bin of gloves on the porch, a pair to fit me and add some polish to the hickory hoe handle. But then they were gone down the dusty lane. It was evening, and I realized no one had said what to do with the moon rising heavy over the east field, or how to manage the crickets churring their shuttles through thick dark, or why I should sleep in the house when the barn loft was soft with hay and smelled like my grandmother's life in the 19th century. And when you lay down, the moon shot spindles of light through shingle cracks above. No one said that blessings could be counted. No one warned me how the farm would take me and shake me like a stick the dog got hold of, set me down like thistle wisp at midlife, waiting for the next breath of wind to take me forward into what I never guessed could be my happiness. Life on the farm. And then, since many of you are holding a lovely glass of wine, I want to read this poem called Wine Roots. You know, sometimes one of my favorite things in the writing life is I had this idea out of nowhere. I'm very interested in that phrase, out of nowhere. Well, it came from somewhere. And so I got thinking about where does wine, what are the roots of wine? So this is Wine Roots. Rain, too, has a vintage, aged for eons in the sea, then lifted from salt waves for long migration to this hill, these furrows, this earth. And wine has roots in the family of the makers, their long learning peppered with instructive errors and the pluck to try again. Wine has roots in weather, the right rain at the right time, temperature rising, cresting, and the sun heart beating down, wheeling toward solstice. And wine delves deep into the bread of earth to sip and savor centuries, all the fallen years, the legacy and perfection of loss and love made crisp and dry. So sip, remember, wonder, and apprehend the falling, delving, rising, deep wisdom born of struggle, affection, and persistence. Then taste this flavored song. Raise your glasses.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Shuttle and do the wedding, so I think he's going to try to pull that off. And our brother and I are staying out someplace.
Our neighbors.
This one I wrote today. I just, out of nowhere, this phrase went through my mind. My father's hands said no. And I didn't even know what that meant. My father's hands said no. And I started thinking about all the people who have worked to bring this bounty to us. And so my father's hands said no. Growing up poor, my father took his short hoe to the sugar beet fields. With the short handle, the boss could see if anyone was standing to rest. My father's hands held the cheater bar to cinch a stubborn valve at the oil refinery, where a spark could turn thick air to fire. My father's hands reached into a hollow in the bank of the Ninneskah in search of catfish, but a muskrat bit his thumb. My father held his leaves of grass to his heart when the mob in Arkansas shouted, "Get a rope," ready to string him up for refusing to kill. My father's hands held the shivering star drill as a burly roustabout swung the sledge inches from my father's head. Almost killed a guy this way once. The roustabout grunted, missed my stroke, laid him out, threw him in a car. But he sat up and said, "What happened?" All through the war, instead of a gun, my father's hands held the hickory handle of axe or spade or Pulaski, on his knees to set young trees into the earth, or stand at the line to fight fire, or fling gravel from a shovel's ringing arc as the crew built roads. We would travel after the fighting stopped for a time, after that big bomb other hands had built, hoisted into a plane, and with a touch let go. My father's hands said no, said this is how we could live, without weapons, but with words, with honest work and fellowship. Amen. And then one more about a worker. About 3 miles from here is my friend Antonio Dominguez, who has lived without documents for many years. And he's just such a hard worker, and he's always in such a good mood. And he's such a sweet man. And so I wrote this letter on his behalf to the President. It's called Dear Mr. President. Dear Mr. President, in sheer contradiction of your efforts to warn our fellow citizens of the danger of immigrants, a certain Antonio from Michoacan, who has been living without documents as my neighbor for 15 years, has put me to shame with his work ethic, his thrift, his good humor and courage, building stone walls, repairing roads, tilling gardens, and otherwise inflicting beauty and good order on this neglected corner of our nation, in spite of all you say to drive him away. You, sir, are not getting through. He keeps smiling and bending to any task we offer for simple wages, humming a song I can't get out of my head or heart. I do not know how to advise you, sir. You have labored long and loud to cast him out, cast him down, but he just keeps humming that song. Qué linda está la mañana en que vengo a saludarte. He is saying the morning is beautiful, sir, and he greets you, singing. Is everybody having a good time? Oh, yeah. So this is called Feeding Thought for Paul. While we mutter, ponder, pontificate, and chant, someone's in the kitchen feeding thought, bread to make our stories honest as a loaf, green to toss old notions into new array, beets to make the image gleam, beans to make the sentence slender, squash to quash our reticence, crimson tomato in the pot to kindle kinship in our hearts and minds. Did I say kitchen? Oh, Paul, you're in the studio with brush and spoon stirring smoke and savory flavors into a mural for the mind. We honor your gift of seeing that we are rooted in food. We are a grove in your care, your simmering and testing, adjusting, tasting, your culinary skill to make us stewed, brewed, imbued, renewed. So we are humbled into bold resolve to be for earth, sustained by the bounty and generosity of you. I think so. Oh, okay. Okay, well, this party is very good for me because I actually wrote 2 poems this morning. And again, this one came out of nowhere. I just was walking along through the glory of Oregon. A friend of mine calls this time of year the symphony of green. And this phrase came to me, just the ache of earth, of all the creatures of earth, aching to be connected, to be healthy, to be sustaining. And so the ache. All creation aches to fit together in spite of man's destructions, sunderings, extinctions, odd strivings to be orphans from our Mother Earth. Dandelion yearns up through pavement to flash sunny gold. Hummingbird burns her zigzag path to embroider blossom to blossom to blossom. Caterpillar stitches a foot-point odyssey from dirt to blessed bud. And every shooting star welds the void to fire and dust. How can we see it's not all about, how can we not see it's all about connection, kinship, bond, beautiful creatures on the walls of caves? For if we forsake the garden, we will die. If we forsake the vineyard, we are done. Friends, instead may we yearn together for this place and give our children their chance to be human, where in migration geese and butterflies insist far places are one earth. Their sovereign powers crossing borders, nations scratched on maps, knowing the sky is for all of us, and this ache, our great belonging. Thank you.
I would love
Last July, I was just so troubled by the state of the world. I was just so down. All I could do was go pick blueberries. And when I got up in the blueberry patch, there were all these languages and all these children, and everybody was in such a good mood. And so I came home and wrote this poem for the owners of the farm there. Easy pickings in the blueberry field near Corbett. It's easy to laugh in the blueberry field. Staccato plink and plunk as berries plummet into the pail, and you hear children banter in a dozen languages among the green rows. It's easy to forgive there, too, viewing old betrayals sweetly diminished by the honeyed crush of berries on your tongue. It's even possible to imagine peace between people who hated each other before their children met between these rows and asked one another, "Shall we pick together? Come pick with me, my enemy, my angry self. Come, split couple bickering over money. Come to the blueberry field, Palestine and Israel. Come bow and squint under the sun-splashed leaves. Come peer into these dark shadows for blue